What's good? What's going on? Masculine Post. Welcome to the channel. Like, subscribe, share, show your love, get the word out. Okay, this subject matter, I've talked about it in the past, but not to this extent that I want to expound upon it. And that is led by females and by weak men. Led by females and weak men. So we know that in a lot of uh, divorce settlements in the Western society, the female tends to have the upper hand as to the children. Okay, whether boys or girls, she gets the upper hand. So when that happens, she's allowed to teach them, almost indoctrinate, to conduct themselves in a way and to respond to the world the way she would respond. So what then happens is that you have that female who has the seeds underneath her restrict the male access to the children, and then she raises them in a female manner, boys or girls. That then shows you the disconnect between why there would be, for instance, a lack of masculinity in a boy who was raised by such a female. So the masculinity is silenced there. It's silenced. There's no assertiveness. There's emotionality instead. There's no sense of logic, um, accountability. That's that. Now, the unfortunate thing is this program of, women having the power over children in the West has been going on for so long that we have a lot of groups. And that's why I feel like, as a people group, or the black people and other people groups, we may look to our singers. Back then it was Usher, or now it's Chris Brown, or Future, or any of those singers that are producing music, and we get caught up in, like, they're everywhere. They're erratic. They're not steady. They're all over the place. Now, the reason why it is because the leading authority is feminine. The leading authority is feminine. So therefore, we're looking up to somebody who's glamorized, who is exhibiting traits that are unstable. One minute the guy's got a tattoo on the face, especially the young rappers. One minute he's doing this, he's just doing the most. There's no stability, there's no consistency, there's no logic. It's just going. And we go along with that because it's entertaining. But that just shows you the usurping of the male authority at the basic level. And then when you do that, then what's next? We've been having the woke movement where a lot of colleges and schools have female teachers. Once again, the leading voice, the leading authority becomes female. So first you have the children on the basic level, and then you have the leading authority be female in the schools. What then, so therefore the children perceive the female as the authority, and therefore they conduct themselves, they model themselves, or the image of themselves is female. What does that create? I've noticed a lot of guys with an identity, crisis. I mean, guys who don't know who they are. It's just a interesting thing that's happening a lot more these days after we have this woke culture. I identify as, and so forth. So there's going to be a lot of manifestation of that because they're trying to model themselves on the female, and then they don't know how to deal with the rest of what they got going on. So the authority, the male authority, is not just, we'll look at it from in the courts when you divorce. It starts on the basic level. And I'm only talking about this so people are alerted and aware about it, so they can at least see why certain individuals are behaving the way they do, or why you shouldn't allow your children, if you can avoid it, from having that authority over them. The other part then is, so you got your children, and you got your university, and then you get the movies, entertainment. Whole male roles are going to females. So the whole sweep across the spectrum becomes female dominated, even though males are the ones running the show, but they're running that. So that will squeeze the men into a corner, and men have to act accordingly. And that's why most men, I'm like, okay, if this female is going to have my resources and I don't get to have rights over my children, why should I get married? Or why should I be in a relationship? Because on another hand, this being, this person, this people group, are operating with a lot of power and no consequences. Because when a female withholds children from from the father, there's no consequences. When they teach ideologies, the whole thing about. I remember somebody told me, when a child is crying, when a child is a brat, what doesn't matter what they do, always hug them. Now I happen to be African. Yes, I knew I was loved growing up, but what my mama did worked. What my uncles did worked, and that was definitely not hugging. We got whooped. Now, of course, talking like that here already is like, oh, what? You don't do that. You're supposed to talk to your children. But as Africans, we know better. But the point is that the male authority is stripped systematically at every level. And now, add to that, let's say now the male who is stable goes into a new marriage. He's going to revere the female. And if he gets a job, now there's this insertion like you have to meet quarters of female bosses and you have to conduct yourselves. So overall, what happens is the world becomes very, very feminine in its approach, and masculinity is on the back burner. And that's why you start to meet a lot of guys who are quote unquote useless. And women will say, will complain, oh, men these days are good for nothing. Men these days don't know how to fix nothing. Well, because how can you be steady? To build, you need structure, logic. You have to control your emotions. So I think that there's a disservice to men. Masculinity is not something that's glorified. We know that. Um, but it makes men not feel wanted, which then increases the loneliness of men because engaging with a female for long periods of time just creates friction because she wants to be a boss, because she's seen as queen, she's seen as goddess, and the man is what? What does the man do? It's just gimme, gimme, gimme. And then, of course, the man does not have the capacity to express himself. When he says something, he's attacked. And that's a sad state of things. To have that spectrum categorically, systematically, just deflated. That's why male suicides go up. And it's funny how there's no empathy for that. But you look at a male sport and breast cancer day, they're in pink, the guys are in pink to glorify the feminine. So this thing is just on another scale, on a large, like huge. The other part I did talk about, but I did not expound on, was that when you get married, most males have already been trained to glorify the females. So you find those marriages, the man knows that if she walks away, she's going to get half. So he's not even the dominant force. So then you have the children, even in those arrangements where it's a two-parent household, and yet the woman still gets to control the majority of the law giving or the lack thereof, and so forth. So this is more like to let my brothers know why you have to be mindful of the environment that you are. You have to be mindful what females you're dealing with because that could translate into you being emasculated because society is emasculating you. Okay, it's just the realness of what's going on. These things have been going on for a long time since childhood, and there's a push for you to comply, but you have to stand on your game as a man and stay true. And that's why the part of walking away or moving to parts where females don't hold um, the cards is a good thing. All right, peace, love, and blessings.